Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Yellowhammer Outdoors. Today, we're going to be talking about Savage versus Ruger. Which is the best budget rifle for you? Now, the reason I'm talking about the Savage and Ruger is because you can go into most any pawn shop or gun store here in the United States, and those are the two brands you're guaranteed to find, even with what's going on right now in the firearms industry. Now, for the purposes of this video, I am not going to be talking about the Savage Axis. I'm going to be talking about the Savage 110 series of rifles like this one here behind me. I'm also going to be talking about the Ruger American. This video is designed with budget in mind, and although the Savage Axis is a budget rifle, it falls below standards that I look for in a rifle and standards that I think the 110 series of rifles maintains. When you talk about the Savage 110 series of rifles, that includes the Savage 11, 12, 14, 16, 110, 112, 116. There's this whole family of rifles that includes. That family of rifles also comes with different price points. Now, for the sake of this video, we're talking about, say, $400 or $500 video. So when you look at a Savage 110 series of rifles, you're probably going to be looking at something like the Savage 11, kind of their introductory rifle into that family of 110 series rifles. This one behind me that I have here started out its life as a Savage 11. Lots and lots of modifications have been made to this rifle to make it what it is. It has a custom barrel nut, custom barrel, bolt, and everything has been completely redone on this, but it just kind of goes to show what can be done with that style of rifle. The same here goes with the Ruger American. Although this is mostly factory as far as the action and barrel goes, some modifications have been done to accurize and improve this rifle for my taste and my likes. Now, we're gonna kind of go front to back on both of these rifles. With the Ruger American, you have many different options as far as the Ruger American goes. This one is a Predator 308, so it is a 18-inch barrel. If you've watched any of my other videos, you're very familiar with this rifle. I did a build video on this about a year ago and a follow-up a few months after that, and I really love this rifle. I have put this Arkin scope on here, this 4-16. I've gone to the range with it a few times, and both the rifle and scope, you know, do not cease to amaze me in what they're capable of. With this being an 18-inch barrel, you know, that affects weight and balance and all of that on here. But Ruger does make these rifles in standard length, 22-inch barrels. I think they might even go to 24-inch barrels depending on the caliber. You have many of your standard calibers that are available: 308, 6.5 Creedmoor, 350 Legend, 243, 22 250, 270, 30-06. So they have several options that they offer both in short action and long action. And really, you know, as far as barrel accuracy and everything goes, most of the rifles that you're gonna get today from the factory, with the improvements that have been made to the manufacturing process, the tolerances and everything that are in there, you're going to get barrels that are capable of 1 MOA. Even a Savage Axis, you know, what I consider to be a kind of subpar bolt action rifle, it's still capable of 1.5 MOA. So that accuracy really is gonna be in both rifles. What it comes down to is what you are looking for personally, what features you prefer in a rifle, aftermarket support. So going back to the action, you can see that this action, it's a strong overbuilt action. It's, you know, I really like my Ruger American, and I really love this action. I love the features that are in this. For your bolt release, you do have a side over here that you push, and that pulls your bolt out. Because I have my cheek piece on here, I can't pull this out, but if you look, you can see here, I'm gonna see if maybe the camera will focus on this, but this is a 3-lug bolt. So what that means is when you push this in and you lock it in place, you have 3 points here where your lug is locked in. You can also see here in the bolt that you have a little pin right here, that holds part of your internals here in place, but it also acts as a pressure release point for those pressures coming back at you. In the action here, you do have 2 ports here in front of where right at where your action locks in place. So those gases, once again, instead of coming back through the bolt and traveling at your face as you're shooting, a lot of that is dispersed here through the sides. And it's a great design, it's a strong design, it's very, very well built. The action here, you have a semi-free floating action along with a free floating barrel. So what Ruger did is your action really only comes into contact with your stock in 2 places where you have 2 pillars. And that is something that is somewhat new to the industry. Previously, you would hear of guys fully glass bedding their actions and all that, and they wanted their action to be super tight in that stock and touching in just about every place, for a really, really tight fit. Ruger has gone a different route, and they just have these 2 pillars. You tighten those down to about 30-35 foot-pounds, up to about 40 foot-pounds, and your action is locked in place, and it is free floated in there, except for where it's held there in those pillars. Now, when we get to this part here, your safety, you have a 2-point safety, you have fire, and you have safe. That is one of the things I don't like about this. So when you're on fire, you can work the bolt, and this is unloaded and safe. But when you work the bolt, this is on safe, and you can work the bolt there in safe, but you cannot pull the trigger. There have been times where I have been out in the woods with this rifle. I put it on safe, and I've got it on my back, I've got it on the 4-wheeler, and I'm out somewhere, and I go to unload my rifle. I go to take it off my shoulder, and I find that my bolt is up like this. Sometimes it's halfway back or something like that. I don't typically carry a round in the chamber when I'm on the 4-wheeler, but depending on where I'm hunting, sometimes I may carry a round in the chamber if I expect to maybe see some game or something on the way to the tree stand or on the way to where I'm hunting. I don't like not being able to lock my bolt. In fire, obviously you can work your bolt and you can pull the trigger here. I have upgraded my trigger here to a Timony trigger. This is set at 2.5 pounds. This is the factory trigger that comes in this. Once again, that 2-position safety. But as you can see, it has this blade style trigger. That's the safety built into there. What you do to work this trigger is you pull that back until that blade right there is fully compressed up against your actual trigger, so that decompresses that safety spring in there, and then you can work the trigger. Ruger makes these user adjustable down to 3.5 pounds. If you prefer a lighter trigger the way I do, then you are going to have to look at a aftermarket trigger option. I do recommend Timony. But if you are just fine with having a 3.5 to 5 pound trigger pull, then this should work just fine for you. So that's really it when it comes to the Ruger American action. It does come with this 1-piece mount already built onto the rifle, so that is another really good feature. It is removable, so if for any reason you wanted to go with a two-piece mount or something like that, this is removable, and you can find places that do make two-piece mounts for the Ruger American. But that's really it as far as the Ruger American goes. It's a very, very well-built rifle for the price. Before I move on to the Savage, one thing I do want to talk about, I forgot to mention when talking about the barrel, is the Ruger American does come with a barrel nut. It is a smooth barrel nut. So you can find a gunsmith online that makes a special tool that you wrap around this, and it allows you to remove this smooth barrel nut if you want to be able to replace barrels. The smooth barrel nut is a bit of a pain in the butt to remove, and if you ever do go replacing your barrel, the way I did on this Ruger American here behind me with the stainless barrel, I took a 308 and built a 375 Raptor on a Ruger American platform. I do recommend going with an aftermarket barrel nut, something that you can use either a crescent wrench on or something that has the Savage style threads on there, so that you can use a Savage tool to set your head spacing and torque down your barrel nut. So now we're going to move on to a Savage 110 rifle, and we're going to talk about some of its features. All right, guys, and we're back with the Savage 110 here. Now, as I stated before, this is not what a factory Savage 11 looks like when you buy it off the shelf. Savage 11 is their introductory rifle that would be at around the same price point as a Ruger American. The Savage 11 is commonly sold as a scope package. I know that they have come in the past with Nikon BDC scopes. I believe at one point they had Vortex scopes on there, and I'm not sure what scope package they're selling with them now, but usually they are sold with a scope package. Usually they're a 3x9 kind of hunting style scope, second focal plane, no real features in it, no parallax or anything like that, just a straight standard, good 150, 200 yard range scope, and that's typically how they're packaged. They come in a kind of black coating that Savage uses. It's not Cerakote, it's not a bluing, it has a matte finish to it. I'm not sure exactly what Savage uses on those rifles, but it does have some kind of coating on there. And it does not come with a one-piece mount. It comes with the two pieces, your scope rings, your scope attached to it, and it comes with the Savage AccuTrigger style of trigger. Now, as far as barrels go, as I mentioned before, Savage barrels are 1 MOA barrels. That holds true for their 11 series of rifles, the 12, 14, 16, 110, 110 tactical, all of that. Savage makes great barrels. Savage also uses a barrel nut system. Their barrel nut has these teeth in it that are designed to be used with a special tool. Now, in the last few years, Savage has moved to a smooth barrel nut. Why they have done that, I'm not sure, but you can still find many of their rifles that have the teeth designed to be used with the special Savage wrench. So barrels are great. Barrel nut makes removing or swapping barrels very easy. And next, what I would like to talk about is the bolt. Savage uses what is called a floating bolt, and hopefully you can see that here on the screen, but as you can see right now, this looks like just kind of one solid piece. Actually, it's a floating bolt. So when you go to chamber around and you go to lock this in, as you turn that down, what happens is you have this one piece here, as you can see me turning, you have this one piece that actually stays in place as you're locking your bolt down. So what that does is that creates part of your bolt that is locked in behind your chamber. So you have two lugs here that are locked in place in your chamber, and then you have these two pieces here that are locked in behind it. I really like the engineering. I really like that feature. It was designed back in the 60s, I believe, by this gentleman that worked for Savage specifically for safety issues. What that does is that locks in place, and that prevents anything from blowing back in your face should these lugs fail for whatever reason. Now, as far as these lugs failing, you do have a port here at the top that when you lock this in, it points out here to the shooter's right. And as you can see, there is a vent here, and you also have a vent on the other side. So it is a dual ported vent to really blow all of those gases out. But should excessive gases come back towards the shooter, you have this floating bolt here that is designed to try and stop as much of that gas as possible from coming back in the shooter's face. So I think it's a really great bolt design. I really love it. It's one of the reasons that I really like Savage Actions. Now, the next thing we'll talk about here is the trigger. As you can see here, this is also an aftermarket trigger. This is a Rifle Basics trigger set at 2.5 pounds. But this is what a standard Savage trigger would look like. This is called their Accu trigger, and it is adjustable down to about 2 pounds, I believe. So it has more adjustment than the Ruger factory trigger does. It has that same blade style that Savage came out with back in the 2000s, early 2000s. And it has a 3-position safety. Now, those 3 positions are full safe, which means that you cannot unlock we'll demonstrate that here. So when you are on full safe, what that means is you cannot pull the trigger, nor can you work the bolt. When you are on that 2nd position safety, you still cannot pull the trigger, but you are able to cycle and work your bolt. And then you have safety off, which allows you to work and cycle your bolt and pull that trigger. I really like having a 3-position safety where I can lock my bolt down. Once again, if I'm out in the woods, I'm on a 4-wheeler or something like that, I don't want to have to worry about my bolt handle coming up and, you know, flying back, throwing out a round or something if I have one loaded in there. So I really prefer the safety and bolt on the Savage 110 series of rifles in comparison to Ruger American. So you might be asking, why did I get a Ruger American? Why did I build a 375 Raptor on a Ruger American instead of a Savage 110 rifle? Here is the downside to these Savage rifles. Aftermarket support is really bad in comparison to Ruger American or other rifles. And I don't quite understand that, because the Savage 110 is the longest continuously produced rifle in America. It came out back in the 60s, and it has been produced ever since it was introduced to this day. Ruger is a relatively newcomer on the scene, but it has so much aftermarket support. Although Savage is now selling factory rifles that have the Magpul Hunter stock, if you go to Magpul's website, it's still not available on their website. The Ruger American has had a Magpul Hunter stock option for at least a couple of years now. As far as triggers and things go, you have Rifle Basics, you have Timony triggers, and you know these other companies that make trigger options for Savage. But really, aftermarket support is not there. So that's a big consideration. All in all, it's really going to come down to you and what you're looking for. If you want that strong aftermarket support, definitely go with the Ruger American. It is a great built rifle, capable of, you know, many of the things that rifles that double or triple its price point can do. If you are looking for something that has some additional safety features built into it, something that you know, might be a little easier to swap out barrels or something down the road, then definitely look at the Savage 110 series rifles. I love my Savage rifles. I have a few of these, and they have been my go-to for builds. You know, a lot of times when I have somebody asking me, hey, I want to do a Wildcat round, I want to do something like that, but you know, I have a budget, Savage is my go-to for that. Instead of doing something like a Defiance action or something like that, Savage has a lot of that adaptability that a lot of other rifles simply don't. So, you know, really, as with anything else, it's up to you and what you're looking for. Whether you go with a Ruger American or a Savage 110 series rifle, you are going with a great built rifle. It's just up to what you're looking for and, you know, which of these features is more important to you. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, leave comments down below. If there's anything that I didn't mention, please feel free to comment it. And let me know what you think and what your favorite rifle is, whether you have a Ruger American, a Savage 110, or both. Which one do you prefer and why? Thanks again for watching. Hope to see you in the next video.